Fight fans, welcome to the PBC podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome, everyone, to the PBC podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
And I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
Thanks, as always, for joining us. This week, we got legendary boxer and trainer James "Buddy" McGirt. Plus, we're going to take a look back at last weekend's monster upset in the heavyweight division. Joshua-Usyk beating Anthony Joshua to become the new unified champ. And in today's toe-to-toe section, we're going to list our top 5 heavyweights currently. Been a lot of shakeup in that division, and there may be more very soon. Saturday, October 9th, it's the trilogy. Undefeated WBC heavyweight champ Tyson Fury and former longtime champ Deontay Wilder square off for a third time. This one at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, live on pay-per-view. And the undercard features some excellent heavyweight action as well. Unbeaten prospect Jared Anderson will kick things off in the pay-per-view opener. Plus, you have the rematch, Robert Helenius versus Adam Kovnatski. Helenius, of course, stopped Kovnatski in 4 rounds back in March 2020. And a battle of undefeated heavyweight prospects / contenders turned contenders as F.A. Ajagba takes on Frank Sanchez. I mean, this is one hell of an undercard. Mike, what is your favorite fight in that grouping?
Well, I might be most intrigued by the Ajagba-Sanchez fight because I think the jury is still out on both guys. It will be really interesting to see how that fight unfolds. In terms of just a fun fight to watch, though, I'm going to go with the Robert Helenius, Adam Kovnatski rematch. The first fight was just an absolute barn burner with a surprising ending. And even though Kovnatski says he's going to be more careful in the second fight, he's an aggressive guy by nature. So is Helenius. That fight is going to be a lot of fun to watch as long as it lasts.
Yeah, and it sounds like both guys are gunning for the knockout. Kovnatski, of course, told us that he wants the knockout. And when we asked Helenius last week if his prediction, he said basically the same thing that happened the last time, which was him winning by 4th round TKO. So I'm looking forward to that fight as well. I would say that my favorite fight on the undercard is F.A. Ajagba versus Frank Sanchez. I mean, 2 unbeaten up-and-comers, a great matchup of styles. Sanchez is the boxer, and Ajagba is known as the power puncher. So, and another thing, too, is that it's rare to see fighters at that level facing each other. Plus, it's a 50-50, a toss-up battle. So I'm all in. Of course, we're going to have a full breakdown of this card on next week's podcast. Let's move on to our guest this week. One of the best fighters of his era turned into one of the best trainers of his era, a 2-division world champ and a Trainer of the Year award winner, James "Buddy" McGirt. Buddy, first, congratulations on Callum Smith's KO win over the weekend. Were you impressed with his performance?
Yes, very, very much so. Especially, being our first fight together, I was very impressed. He was coming along in the gym at first. He had to get adapted. We both had to get adapted to each other, to be honest. And after, like, the 3rd week, everything started flowing.
Nice. That's great. Now, you joined forces with Smith after his loss to Canelo, several months after his loss to Canelo. In your opinion, having watched, I assume you watched that fight, what happened to Smith in that fight? You didn't watch that fight?
I didn't watch it, no.
Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, because it's not, I'm not going to look at that fight. I'm going to look at what I have in front of me now. Because God only knows what he did to get ready for that fight, how he was feeling that night. So I'm not even going to sit and watch that, because then it might, I believe if you do that, right, there's something negative can be in your mind from that fight. You know what I mean? And he might not be that same guy. So I want to see what I have right now. I don't want to see what happened then.
Gotcha.
Interesting. What do you feel you have right now? What is it about Smith that do you think make him successful?
I got a future world champion.
Well, that leads me directly.
He does things majority of the fighters don't do today. He listens.
Okay. That sounds good. It sort of leads me to my question. Do you think he's ready for a world title shot at 175 right now? And if so, are you guys targeting anybody in particular?
Well, I don't get into that targeting part, but I know that for a fact he's ready right now.
Interesting. Okay. It looks like we might see Artur Beterbiev face Marcus Brown next. How do you see that fight playing out, and who do you like to win that fight?
I mean, I really don't care who wins it, to be honest. I think that Beterbiev might be too strong late in the fight. But I'm going to be honest with you. I saw Marcus Brown fight once, and I only saw like 2 or 3 rounds. I saw Beterbiev fight once, and I saw 2 or 3 rounds.
Okay.
I hear you. Now, we brought up Canelo earlier. He's going to be taking on Caleb Plant November 6th on Showtime pay-per-view. From your trainer's eye and as a former great boxer, give us your thoughts on the matchup.
I think that it's going to be an interesting fight. I think that it's going to be more of a chess match. And then after the first 3 rounds, and just see who can impose their strategy better than the next man. I think early is going to be a chess match. I mean, Caleb Plant can fight. Canelo says he's not on his level, but that night you never know.
I like it.
Because we all got our night, that one night to shine, and that could be his night. But then again, it might not be.
Now, do you feel, I mean, we saw what happened in the press conference with the pushing and the blows that were thrown. Did you feel either fighter gained maybe a mental edge from the press conference last week?
You can say yeah, you can say no. My thing is, because I really don't like stuff like that. So I really don't pay stuff like that no mind.
Why don't you like that?
Because, listen, you're professionals, man. Act like a professional.
Now, I know that you're no stranger to how important the mental aspect of the sport is. You were the man in the corner of Antonio Tarver when he upset Roy Jones back in 2004. But I seem to recall that even when you were an active fighter, you used to say that you knew how to beat Roy Jones. What is it that you saw?
What's that? Oh, well, with Roy, Roy was the type of guy that, Roy comes out and he sets the tempo. Kind of like what Floyd does. They get you to dance to their beat. You know what I mean? They come out early, get your respect, and then you dance to their beat. And then once you dance into their beat, they control the rest of the fight. So the key with Roy was don't let them get comfortable. Can't let them get comfortable. And then I spoke with 2 great trainers who are dead now. God bless them both, Eddie Futch and Georgie Benton. And Georgie Benton said, buddy, I don't care how fast the person is. They can't punch and block punches at the same time.
That's interesting.
Eddie Futch said to me, don't let Roy set a tone and get in his rhythm. He goes, don't do that. If you let Roy set the tone and get in his rhythm, you got problems. But once you get him out of his rhythm, you got to keep him out of it. Because if you wait 1 split second and let Roy get back in his rhythm, then you're in trouble.
Wow.
So it still takes a special fighter to pull it off, though. What was it about Tarver that you think that allowed him to do that?
Tarver told me about a week before the fight that he beat Roy Jones in a basketball game.
Yeah, okay.
I said I got the better athlete.
So it was athleticism, you think?
That was the icing on the cake for me.
Interesting. So Jones won a close decision in the first fight. Maybe you've alluded to this already, but what did you guys do differently in the rematch with Antonio that allowed him to win by a second round knockout? Was it just what you had said that just don't let Jones set the tone? Was that the key to everything in the end?
I pissed Tarver off in the corner at the end of the first round.
Right, I remember. You said you were giving him too much respect, right?
Yeah, and he got mad. And I said, then go get your respect then. I mean, because he was letting Roy starting to set the tone. You can't do that.
Buddy, another fighter you worked with was Arturo Gatti. Gotti became rejuvenated under your watch and sort of transformed from being, a brawler to more of a boxer, puncher. How difficult was it to make that adjustment?
It took me about 2.5 weeks to get him out of it.
Okay. How did you do that?
Well, when we were sparring, say we're sparring around and he starts slugging, right?
Yeah.
I would start the round, stop it, and start all over again. So I said, now we can finish this round in 3 minutes, or we can finish this round in 20 minutes. Choice is yours. But you got to give me what I want. If you don't give me what I want, we're going to be here all day. So some rounds went, I stopped it about 2 or 3 times, and I started all over again. And it was like round 2 all over. If we get halfway through and you're messing up, time. Start it over again. So the goal was, let's get 6 rounds to do what I want. And if you can give it to me for 6 rounds, I'm okay. We start off with doing it, give me 4 rounds. Once you got that, I said, give me 6. So once I got 6 out of him, I didn't push it. And I said to him, I said, now when you finish training, you can go play golf. You don't have no black eyes. You're not bruised up. So don't you like that feeling? He said, yeah. I said, all right then.
That's great. Was that your toughest challenge as a trainer, or have you had one that was tougher?
No. I mean, I've had that wasn't my toughest challenge. No.
You're gonna leave it at that?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. But there were some guys I should be like, how the hell did they get to this level? So it wasn't my toughest challenge at all.
I hear you. Now, speaking of transformation, we're seeing Malik Scott, Deontay Wilder's trainer, trying to do the same thing with Deontay Wilder, or as he puts it, maybe magnify some of the things he's seen Deontay do over the years and make them the norm. From your perspective, has there been enough time to properly instill all those changes in Deontay?
I think that in a situation like that, you make maybe 2 major changes. You don't try to do too much. Because here's the thing now. You ready now?
Yeah.
If you can find 2 major changes and make them, 2 more will automatically get changed. You understand what I mean?
Explain that.
If you find, say you got 6 things you want to work on, right?
Yeah.
So you say, if I can get them to do this and this, then that and that will fall right in place behind it.
Yeah.
It's a mind thing. I mean, it's a thinking thing as a trainer. Like, you got to watch him train every day. Watch him when he shadow box. You got to watch everything he does. And then you got to go back at night and you got to sit and think. And each day you got to try something different to see if you get 1 and 2 going, then maybe 5 and 6. 3 and 4 might not go, but 5 and 6 will fall in place behind it. So it comes down to the trainer's mentality as far as like thinking, like, how can I get him to do this? You know what I mean? Like, some guys says, okay, I got to get you from point A to point B. Now, some guys might can go straight. Some might have to go left, then right, then up, then down, then straight again. So it's crazy, but at the same time, if you get a couple of things going, the rest will take care of itself. It's like when I had Chisora fight Joseph Parker, every day I said, let me try this. That didn't work. Let me try that. Then I found one thing that'll work. I said, let me see if this and that'll go. And once I got 2 things to go, everything else fell in place.
Buddy, in your opinion, what changed from Wilder Fury 1 to Wilder Fury 2?
What changed? I think that after the Wilder Fury 1, I think that Wilder thought he was going to get him out of there early because of those 2 vicious knockdowns. But Tyson Fury came in a little heavier and jumped right on him right out the gate. Didn't let him set a rhythm. He jumped right on him. You know what I mean? And by him jumping on him, he wasn't able to get a rhythm. But after the 2nd round, I looked at my wife. I said, yo, this fight is over. Deontay had no legs.
What do you think happened? Did you think he got clipped, or was it the weight, or?
You know what? I really, really don't know. I don't know, but after the second round, his legs were gone. He fought from the second round on heart alone.
Mm.
That was just heart and grit. You know what I mean? Like, he bit down like a pit bull because after the second round, he was done. So going into 3, the key is this, I think, my opinion. How much did the second fight take out of him physically? How is he going to react when he gets hit with a hard punch or a combination? You know, how's he going to react to that? 2, he's got his mind on kill, kill, kill. That could work. It might not work. Just think about winning. How you going to win, not about killing him. I understand he don't like the man. I understand he wants to hurt the man, whatever the case may be. That's all well and good. But you got to do it in a smart way. You know what I mean? Because you're not fighting Joe Blow. I mean, you know, Tyson Fury is riding on a high from the way he handled him the last time.
Right.
So the key is with Deontay is that he's got to go in there with the mentality to win, but not thinking he's just going to crush him with 1 or 2 punches. No. He's going to have to work at it. It's not going to come easy. Fury's not just going to give in. You know, we all know that. But if Deontay can come out and set the tone and keep it, he'll be okay. But my thing is this: how much physically did that second fight take out of him? Because he took a lot of shots. In training camp, you might look good. I can look good on the mitts. He looks good on the mitts. I can look good on the mitts. But what happens when you got somebody firing back and you're not wearing the headgear? You got on smaller gloves. I mean, so, you know, it's a lot. And I think that Wilder should just relax at times. You know, you see how hyped up he gets when he does the interview?
Yeah.
That can work against you. If you don't control it, it can work against you. But if you can control it and impose it in a smart way, then yes, he can get it done. But if you got 20 people around you yelling, screaming, kill him, knock him out, kill him, knock him out, that's the mentality you're gonna have, and it's not gonna work. I mean, it's not gonna work. You got to be smart about it. You got to take a smart approach to it.
Got it. Do you have a feeling on how the fight might play out?
No, you know what? It's I don't know. Of course, you know, Fury just has that style I give anybody fits. So, you know, there's always that one guy that can give you trouble. No matter what, he might have a 2-20 record, but he might be that one guy that got your number. I mean, man. And there's nothing you can do about it.
What did you think when you saw the clips of Deontay on the mitts, though? Did you see any difference, or what were your thoughts?
I mean, my thing is, it's the mitts. Okay? Like I say, anybody I've seen lawyers look good on the mitts. I mean, anybody can look good on the mitts because it's choreography when you think about it. The guy's telling you what combinations to throw and what to do after you throw them. So it's really choreography if you think about it. Now, and again, the mitts don't hit back. You know what I mean? So that's where, that's where back in the day, a lot of guys didn't hit mitts. We sparred every day. We didn't do all that mitt shit. We sparred every day. I had almost over 30 fights before I ever hit the mitts. Mm. And you learn, you hit the mitts if you're going to learn from it. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're working on something, then you learn it, all right, different. But just to be throwing 15, 20, 30, 40 punches, what good is that? I can teach my daughter how to do that. Mm. So the thing is, I know that Malik got something up his sleeve. I mean, him and Deontay, you can't sleep on them. Malik's been around. But at the same time, you gotta put it to use in the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like in sparring. That's when you got to see if it's working. It can work on the mitts, it can work on the heavy back. You got to have a body in front of you to see if it works. So I'm hoping that Malik took some of the teachings that he got from his trainer, the guy at Jersey, that worked on the man Stewart.
Was it? I'm not sure. Was it Banks? No. Who was it?
No, it was. He's trained Dylan White now.
Oh, jeez. You know what? I think Malik mentioned him actually the last time.
He's an ex-fighter, man. But if he takes some of the stuff he learned from him, he's going to be okay.
Was it Harold Knight? I don't. Was it
there
Harold
you
Knight?
go. That's right, Shadow. Yeah, Harold Knight.
Yeah.
You know, Harold spent a lot of time with Manny, and then he used to train Malik. So if Malik can take some of that and put what he has in his mind from his experience and what Malik has, you might have a deadly combination there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we'll see. We'll soon see. Now, you were in the UK obviously last weekend for Alexander Usyk's big win over Anthony Joshua. Were you surprised by the outcome?
After the first round, yeah.
He
had no answer. He had no answer for what Usyk was doing, and he could have made it much easier.
What do you mean?
He just could have made the fight much easier. He was looking for the one. He was looking for the one punch. I don't think he put together one combination in that fight.
Oh. Wow.
You see, I'm a believer of this. When people fight southpaws today, they say, "Oh, watch your feet. Keep your feet on the outside." I don't believe in that bullshit. Because the guy ain't kicking you; he's punching you. So if you know what the hell you're doing, you don't have to worry about your feet. If you know what I mean, if you got the right corner, you don't got to worry about your feet.
You know what?
Interesting.
You know what I mean? You stand in front of a guy. Oh, let me step and make sure my foot's on the outside of his. Man, look, you ain't got that one split second. You can get caught. Because once you do that, right, a guy does that, and then the southpaw just walks away. Now you got to get reset again.
What do you think? What do you think it was about Usyk that made him so difficult for Joshua?
He was giving him that herky jerky. He never gave him the same thing. He was moving his head, moving, stepping, moving, just never letting him get set.
So what do you think happens in a rematch?
Well, but I mean, it can go the other way. If it could be an easier night if Joshua is taught the way to beat him. Can't be trained. You got to be taught. There's a difference. I mean, you got to be taught how to beat him. He can't be trained how. You got to be taught.
Interesting.
Most guys say, "I'm a trainer." Okay, you can train, but can you teach?
In your opinion, what's the difference? What's the difference between the two? How do you differentiate that?
If you have a fighter and you're in the gym and you're working on something, and then you ask the fighter at the end of the day, "Okay, what'd you learn today?" If he can't give you one or two answers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you know where you're at.
I see.
So would you just tell Joshua to not worry about the knockout, just throw punches, throw combinations, and it'll come?
Put him in a blend. You got to set it up. You're not gonna hit him with one shot. You got to set it up. You got to pick the lock and then lower the boom, as the old timers used to say.
Yeah, he's got the power, no question about that, right?
Yeah.
It's called the overlay for the underplay.
Yeah. So how do you think Usyk fares against the other top heavyweights like Fury and Wilder?
That'll be interesting. But I'm like Roy. Roy said, "Don't let Usyk and Fury fight." I'm like Roy. Because it could be a good fight or it could be a stinker.
Yeah. How do you think Usyk and Wilder plays out?
That'd be a good fight. That'd be a good fight because Wilder got that right hand down the middle, man. That's just like a Scud missile, man.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what he'll be looking for.
And if he hits you with that, if you don't go down, you do funny things standing up.
Buddy, you've been great. It's been great talking to you. Great getting your insight as always. Thank you so much.
All right.
And hopefully we'll have you back on soon.
Anytime, babe.
Now ready for the heavyweight world title fight.
No pain, no power.
Wilder, Fury, here we go.
It's no way out. I'ma never back down. Never run, no retreat, I don't know how.
He said he would knock him out.
Like when they fire shots on the first round.
Mania!
When they fire shots on the first
He
round.
puts it down.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
All right, it's time for the week in review. Last Saturday, unified world heavyweight champ Anthony Joshua put his belts on the line against unbeaten former cruiserweight champ Alexander Usyk. Joshua, a sizable favorite heading into the bout, but fights aren't won on paper. Usyk was brilliant outboxing Joshua over 12 rounds to win a clear unanimous decision and become the new WBA, IBF, and WBO world heavyweight champion. Mike, first, what were your overall thoughts on the fight?
I think it's always fascinating to watch something like that unfold. Joshua was seen as the number one or number two guy by most people, and Usyk really just a cruiserweight, seeing what he could do at heavyweight. Then it becomes apparent fairly quickly that Joshua was in trouble. And while Joshua had some good rounds in the middle of the fight, when I thought he might seize control of the fight, it was Usyk who took control down the stretch to sort of win going away. Especially the last flurry there was pretty crazy. Just fascinating to me. It reminded me a little bit of the Tyson Fury Vladimir Klitschko fight. I sort of couldn't believe what I was seeing a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of know that it looked like it was a seesaw sort of affair through the first three quarters of the fight. It did seem like Joshua took control and was on his way to a win, however he was going to win, but that just didn't happen. What did you make of Usyk's performance?
I thought it was tremendous. He controlled the fight with his movement, obviously, both his feet and his head. Joshua couldn't get a beat on him for almost the entire fight, except for, a few times in the middle rounds. At the same time, Usyk was a southpaw, was able to land those straight lefts pretty consistently. Joshua just couldn't figure out a way to avoid them. And he was amazing. Usyk was amazing in the championship rounds again. Yeah. And Joshua seemed to get tired. And I guess he had problems with his eye. That last flurry by Usyk punctuated what I see as a defining performance for him. And maybe that's an understatement. I think you have to say it's the performance of the year to date. He's a special boxer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it makes a strong case for the top pound for pound slot with that performance. He was absolutely fantastic. I have to credit you. I know you picked Joshua to win, but I know how much you wanted to pick Usyk to win. So I gotta give credit to you because you were pretty consistent in telling me that Usyk was a great threat. I also want to shout out Lamont Jones because Lamont Jones. Let me tell you something. How confident this guy was. He was like. He said Usyk's going to beat him up, and we're betting a stake on it. And I was like, absolutely, And so right before the fight, he's like, I like it, aged, medium rare. I want all the fixins. And I was like, you're out of your mind. But he kept breaking, for the past 4 or 5 weeks, same thing. Like he'd been telling me how Usyk was going to do a number on him. Shout out to everybody in the Chicken Talk as well. Rodney Jaguars, Rob Tebut from Boxing Social, all the guys who were trying to tell me that Usyk was going to do the deed, and he absolutely did. What about Joshua? What did you make of his performance?
Well, first, the weird thing is that he wasn't blown out or anything like that. I thought Usyk won a clear decision. I gave him 8 rounds to 4, but he didn't completely dominate Joshua, who once again had his moments. Joshua's a good boxer. He has that power. Something was missing, though. You're the bigger, stronger, harder puncher. Find a way to take advantage of that. Find a way to impose your will on the smaller guy. I thought what Buddy McGirt said made sense. Just let your hands go. Throw combinations and good things are likely to happen. Yeah. Someone I respect was sort of making fun of those who might say to Joshua, just be more aggressive. I get why that's a little bit too simplistic. It's not as simple as that when you're face to face with a boxer as talented as Usyk. Here's the thing, though. Joshua, in all likelihood, isn't going to outbox Alexander Usyk. He has to be more aggressive. He has to look like at least a little like Tyson Fury did in the rematch with Deontay Wilder. He has to sort of take what's his. Otherwise, he's just not going to get it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, look, in terms of, I thought he fought well, in terms of showing the kind of skill he possesses. He was able to take control of the fight at a certain point, but ultimately, I believe that Usyk had better conditioning, better experience, and dare I say, perhaps a little more dog in him. He may have wanted it a little more because there was a time during the fight where it looked like, man, Joshua's got him sized up. He's breaking him down, wearing him down. But it was Usyk who stepped up over the last 4 rounds of the fight. It was Usyk who was landing the heavier blows, who had renewed energy, who was taking it to the bigger, stronger man. And so when I say that, Joshua didn't show certain attributes like the conditioning or perhaps not having as much dog, I'm not knocking Usyk because Usyk showed all of those attributes and therefore is truly an elite fighter. But I do wonder if that's always going to be the case with Anthony Joshua. Is he going to slow down in the later rounds of every fight? Is he, what is it about him? And with that in mind, Mike, who do you think wins an immediate rematch?
That's a tough one. For me, anyway. If I had to pick a winner right now, I'd pick Usyk after what we just saw. Usyk is very clearly a better fighter than Joshua pound for pound in my eyes. Again, though, he didn't blow out Joshua. I think it's possible that Joshua will have learned from this setback and will come back more determined and more willing to take risks. The rematch will really be a test of Joshua's resolve, which was questioned after his loss to Andy Ruiz in the first fight, even in the rematch, I thought, where he fought tentatively. He has to demonstrate that he has that dog in him. That's the whole thing with him, the lack of dog. He's got to demonstrate that he has some warrior in him. I think it might be in there somewhere, but he needs to let it out or he's just not going to realize the potential that he seems to have. Yeah,
exactly. I think I favor Usyk in the rematch. Based on what we saw last Saturday, he just seemed to have everything over Joshua, except maybe size and power, and he had enough of both to keep to make Joshua careful and not just rush right in. I think it would take a step down performance from Usyk in order for Joshua to win. I mean, right. AJ was sort of befuddled and worn down by the end of the fight, and I think if anything, the way Usyk closed tells me that he sort of figured the guy out and could be even worse in a rematch. Who knows? Now, there have been a lot of talk about, the holy trinity of the heavyweight division, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. We saw what happened on Saturday. Does what occurred affect your view of Fury versus Joshua and Wilder versus Joshua?
Yeah, I wouldn't be honest if I didn't acknowledge that I think a little bit less of Joshua now than I did going into that fight. I thought he had largely rebuilt his reputation by outpointing Ruiz in the rematch and then taking Kubrat Pulev apart. But the loss to Usyk sort of brought me back to where I was after the first Ruiz fight. He just didn't have the tools, or it seemed the will, which is the main thing, to handle what Usyk threw at him. That's 2 times now. I always thought Fury would handle Joshua, and now I would give Wilder a better chance of beating him than I might have before. Say what you want about Wilder. He showed in the rematch against Fury that he'll go out on the shield. He's definitely got dog.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm not sure Joshua could do that. I'm just not. And I think that's a big part of all this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't want to fade against Deontay Wilder either. You don't want to be a sitting target for any of his shots. How about Usyk, though? How does he fare against the other top heavyweights?
I think Fury would be a nightmare for Usyk. Fury's better, more versatile boxer than Joshua and a lot closer to Usyk's ability. If he's not as good a boxer as Usyk, he probably isn't. He's not that much worse. And he's much bigger than Joshua is on top of everything else. I just don't think Usyk can beat an opponent who's that much better and that much bigger than Joshua. Usyk versus Wilder, that's a really interesting fight. I think it would come down to whether Usyk gets caught with one of those big rights. Usyk probably outboxes Wilder until that big shot lands, if it ever does. Usyk took a few hard shots from Joshua, which is actually impressive. I think he showed some resilience, some toughness. I'm not 100% sure he could do the same thing if Wilder lands just right. So I really find that matchup fascinating.
Yeah, so do I. I think both of them are a tougher style matchup for Usyk. One, Wilder's not going to try and box with Usyk the way that Joshua did, and plus Wilder's a little more rangier. I think he, fights at a distance that he's not a mid-range fighter, which I think Joshua is. Wilder is just as powerful catching you at the end of his punches or in close distance, and he's going to be looking for the knockout. I don't think he's looking to dance with Usyk for 12 rounds or try and prove who has the better ring IQ. He'll be looking to set Usyk up, and if Usyk does have moments like he did in the mid rounds against Joshua, where he sort of slowed down a little bit and needed to regroup, it could be curtains for him. I agree with you regarding Fury. I think that a massive heavyweight as fleet-footed as Tyson would be a pretty bad style matchup for Usyk, but I'm not counting Usyk out against anyone anymore. Not following that incredible performance on Saturday night. And with that, we're going to take a quick break and be right back.
Now ready for the heavyweight world title fight.
No pain, no power.
Wilder, Fury, here we go.
It's no way out. Nah, I'ma never back down. Never run, no retreat, I don't know how.
He said he would knock him out.
Like when they fire shots on the first round.
Bouhairie.
When they fire shots on the first round.
He puts it down.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
It's time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe in light of last weekend's shocker and looking ahead to another big heavyweight bout in just a few days. We ask, who are the top 5 heavyweights today? I've got my list ready. I know Mike has his. I'm going to defer to him here. Should we go in ascending order or descending order? Does it matter?
Well, I guess historically we go from the bottom up. You want to do that?
Yeah, sure. Let's make it happen. All right. The floor is yours. Who's your number 5?
Okay, my number 5 this is actually the hardest one. The rest of them kind of just all fell into place. I went with Dillian Whyte. I think number 5 is actually where there's quite a big drop off from the top 4. Although with Joshua, I don't know anymore. Anyway, I guess Whyte claims this spot for now. He's a big, strong guy who can box some. He's had some good wins. He beat Helenius, Joseph Parker, Chisora twice, and he avenged that crazy one-punch loss to Povetkin by stopping him in the rematch. I don't think Whyte is as good as the top 4 guys, but he's one to watch at least until the one or more of the next tier guys make their big moves. I'm thinking about guys like Frank Sanchez, F.A. Jogba, Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, Jared Anderson, Adam Kovnatsky, those kind of guys. I think eventually they're going to step up and sort of push Whyte out, but I think you can argue that Whyte's number 5 right now.
Yeah, you can make a good case for him. He is my number 6 heavyweight. My number 5 is Andy Ruiz. I've got Ruiz over Dillian Whyte. Simply, they don't have a lot of common opponents, obviously, but the two that they do have, Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua, the two that stand out anyway. Obviously, Ruiz 1-1 against Joshua, whereas Whyte got flattened in 7 rounds against Joshua. And then with Joseph Parker, well, Ruiz lost a close decision and Whyte won a close decision over Joseph Parker, but I thought Ruiz could have easily won that fight against Parker. And unlike Whyte was pretty much out on his feet. He was down and out on his feet when that fight ended against Joseph Parker. So I kind of liked Ruiz's performance a little better, and I think that his skill, his chin, his hands, his power. I just simply think that he's a better boxer. Let's go to number 4. We'll kick this one off, and I've got Mr. Anthony Joshua at number 4. Obviously, the loss to Usyk last weekend drops him down. I can't put him below Ruiz. He did beat Ruiz in the rematch, and I still think he's one of the top 5 heavyweights in the world. But, a lot of questions, more questions than answers following last weekend.
Yeah, for the record, I had Andy Ruiz at number 6. I consider him for number 5, but after listening to your take, I think I made a mistake. I really should have had Ruiz at number 5, but you know what? They're probably around the same class. Anyway, number 4 for me is also Anthony Joshua. I think he still has the tools to succeed. He's a big, powerful guy, good boxer, he's a good athlete. I just wonder about that intensity and his toughness in light of his 2 setbacks. I'll give him this. Sometimes it takes time for a guy to find himself. Remember, Joshua had only 40 plus amateur fights, and he's got 26 as a pro. Maybe he'll still find his way, and his destiny also will be in his own hands to some degree, right? Because we're assuming that he's going to get the second fight with Usyk. If he wins that fight, that's a gigantic back step to where he was.
Yeah, it certainly is. And hey, I mean, anything can happen. I mean, he did show up for the rematch against Ruiz. I'm not sure Ruiz did. But if he comes with the right game plan and Usyk is not on point like he was last Saturday, then hey, yeah, Joshua could find himself right back in one of the driver's seats in the heavyweight division. Let's move on to number 3. Who you got?
My number 3 is Deontay Wilder. Wilder has lost only one time, and it was against the best guy on the list. I guess I just spilled the beans. He punches harder than anybody else in the division, maybe for a long, long time, maybe ever, who knows. And his delivery system has failed him only a few times in his entire career. In other words, he lands the big punch like every time. And he also has destiny in his hands. If he can turn the tables on Fury, particularly if he does it like an impressive fashion, he's going to move to the head of the class. So it's sort of up to him.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 3 is Alexander Usyk. I think you can make a case for him at number 2. Heck, some people are considering him number 1. However, I put him at number 3 simply because I believe that for now, next week's fight is between number 1 and number 2. Now, the loser of that fight may drop to number 3 on the list. But for now, I've got Usyk there. Let's go to number 2. I assume Mr. Usyk is your number 2 guy?
You want me to go? Yeah. Alexander.
Should I go with my number 2 first, or
go for it?
All right. Well. I mean, clearly, it's Deontay Wilder. Wilder, of course, is at number 2 due to that loss to Tyson Fury in February 2020. But let's not forget, before that, he was the longest reigning champ in the heavyweight division and one of the longest reigning champs in boxing, period. I mean, reigned for over 5 years and tied with Muhammad Ali in title defenses at 10. And not just that, when you think, I mean, aside from that, his record, leading up to that rematch with Fury was something insane, like, 41 wins with no losses and 40 by knockout, so just something really incredible. And he still has an incredible record, and he still has a great chance at overtaking the number 1 spot and solidifying his Hall of Fame credentials if he wins next Saturday.
Yep, case can definitely be made. Yeah, I think we could juggle these guys, but I think these are the top 3 guys very clearly. Yeah. So yeah, my number 2 is Alexander Usyk. Let me say something here. The last thing I want to do is criticize Alexander Usyk after what he just did. I was just incredibly impressed with him. But I mean, some people are, maybe even you alluded to this earlier, some people are actually like saying he's number 1 pound for pound. I mean, come on, let's get a grip. He beat a guy who wasn't even on anybody's pound, well, not that I know of, anybody's pound for pound list. It was a great win, a big step for him, a defining fight for him, but let's just take it one step at a time. Maybe this is sort of just my years in boxing experience talking, but let's not get carried away. If he gets knocked out by Joshua,
I'm carried away. I'll tell you why, though. It's not just beating Joshua. I mean, the undisputed, he was already a pound for pound on a lot of lists leading up to that fight. I thought I had him just outside the pound for pound list simply because of his inactivity and mediocre performances in his 2 fights at heavyweight. But he was the undisputed cruiserweight champion. But for him to move up and soundly defeat a top 3 heavyweight, the unified heavyweight champion, I think certainly he's in the mix for at least top 5 pound for pound.
No. I should be clear about something. He's number 4 now on the Boxing Junkie.
Fair.
He was number 5 before. So I had a lot of respect for him before. And so he moved up a notch. But to move him all the way to the top after that, Randy Ruiz beat him worse than Usyk did. So,
well, he didn't have that cruiserweight record, though. He was a moving.
No, I get it. But my point is that like, just let's hold on here for a second. Let's not because you know what I think what happens is that people's like, what have you done for me lately? And people get really excited. It's like when Manny Pacquiao was as hot as he ever was. They were comparing him to Henry Armstrong. Maybe now it's not so crazy, but immediately after that, I'm kind of thinking, wait a second, we're getting a little carried away here to say he's, a lot of people think Henry Armstrong's the second greatest fighter who ever lived. Now Manny Pacquiao is being said now compared to him. Anyway, you get my point. I get my point. Let's take it one step at a time. If he does it again, if he beats Joshua, and let's say he fights the winner of Fury Wilder and then beats that guy, then maybe, then maybe we're talking about number 1 pound. Anyway,
maybe absolutely he's
right. Well, Yeah, well, at least we can discuss it. Like, I don't know. Is he really better? We're sort of drifting here, but maybe it's interesting. I mean, is he really better than Naoya Inoue, for example?
I don't know.
I don't think he is. I think that Inoue could do everything Usyk can, but he's got 10 times more power.
Yeah, I get it. I just think that, it's not like when you move up to heavyweight and you're going up 6 pounds or 7 pounds.
You're right. No, you're right.
You are moving up 20, 30, 40 pounds.
Yeah, what he did is incredible.
Yeah, and so I think that does hold some weight. But look, we've got so many great fights still ahead this year that could completely change the landscape. The pound for pound list everywhere, from Canelo Plant to Wilder, Fury Wilder 3 to Crawford versus Porter, and the list goes on. So still a lot of boxing left, and you're right. Maybe once the dust settles on this one, folks won't be as bullish on Usyk being number one pound for pound. Speaking of number one, I assume we both have Tyson Fury there.
No, I have. Yeah, I do. I have Tyson Fury. But I just leave him. He's overrated. Left him off my list. I honestly think there's Fury, and then the rest of them until someone can take him down. The guy can box. He can impose his size and will against an opponent, as he did in the rematch with Wilder. He also has the biggest wins. He beat Vladimir Klitschko before Joshua did, and had an easier time doing it. And many believe Fury should be 2-0 against Wilder. I think Fury is the best thing going at the moment, but let's see what happens on October 9th.
Yeah, I mean, certainly number one by virtue of his wins over Klitschko. He ended the 2 longest reigns in the heavyweight division, Vladimir Klitschko and Deontay Wilder. So no question, Fury's the guy at number one. But that is up in the air, because in a few days we will find out if he will retain that position. And that's going to do it for this week's show. Again, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on the PBC podcast wherever you found us. We want to thank Buddy McGirt for joining us. And we want to thank you guys for listening. Of course, we'll be back next week for more interviews, more boxing talk, and we'll really dig into Fury Wilder 3 right here on the PBC podcast.